Hey everybody, it's Michael Gatewood, and I'm doing another Google Hangout where I'm going to go and talk a little bit about the way to hold a camera. Something crazy happened a couple of weeks ago. Well, actually, about a week ago. I was at an event where my kid was playing in a sporting event, and they were really just going for it. And I was there, but I was there with the lens not really ready to go for shooting sports. It was more for after the fact, and I wanted to be able to go and photograph him after the game and maybe a couple of shots of his friends and let him put it on Facebook and things like that. I wasn't there to shoot. Now, what was interesting is that the event organizer didn't have a photographer, and somebody knew that I was a professional photographer and said, "Would you take some shots?" And I said, "You know what? Yeah, I will. I don't have a long lens today, and I wasn't planning on it, but I'll be happy to." Well, anyway, as the day went on and we shot and did everything necessary for being able to get a couple of events and group shots, and I had a perfect lens for groups and other things, and shooting spectators and just the overall day, I noticed somebody shooting my son's game and had a long lens. And I went up and I said to her that you got to be careful. You're not holding the camera right, and you're going to have a tremendous amount of camera shake. Even if it's fast enough to, stop a bullet, you should be holding your camera correctly. Well, you would have thought that I just slammed her and just told her that, well, that I just wanted to beat her over the head. And I said, "Oh, gosh, she's upset." I said, all I wanted to do was help. And I didn't want to talk anymore because I figured I would get her further upset over it. But every time I look at somebody holding a lens holding a camera incorrectly, I want to help. I just have to. I feel like, if I teach you how to do this, then your shots are going to look fantastic. Now, I know a lot of you are using your cell phone to capture photographs and things. Personally, I think that's a device to talk to people, not really a camera. Sure, it captures events and JPEG and all of that, but I got to tell you, I look at them. They're grainy. They're not ready for anything more than, like I said, almost extortion photography, where you're catching somebody doing the wrong thing. And other than that, I don't see it. I know they're out there. There's camera shake. It's hard to hold those cameras stable. So, getting to the actual subject at hand, and that is how to hold your camera. And hopefully some of you will pay attention to this, because really, I don't want to go over there and show you how to do it. I don't want to tell you you're doing it wrong. But I feel very strong about the fact that I want to help people and I want to teach them. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't get online and start talking about my trade and how to get people to do a better job and maybe even compete against me. So maybe my strategy isn't self-serving. Maybe it's to help. Now, I'm a big believer that if you're photographing something that's not moving, then your camera doesn't need to move. And that means, and I got it back here, I got a camera on a tripod. Okay, and when I photograph people, stability is important. But when I photograph landscapes and they're not moving, if the camera shakes, then the image itself is going to be soft or out of focus. And usually with a longer exposure, which is something I have to do, I need a tripod. When I'm shooting events and I'm shooting with a long lens, I need a monopod. That's what I need. Look, these hands are not stable. They shake. And the older I get, the more they shake. And I can't help it. But I know a couple of tricks, and I just want to share them. Now, I've got a camera right now. I'm going to back up just a little bit. You're going to notice a few things. If I go in to shoot and I have a railing to work with, then I put my hand on that railing. I create a shelf. I bring it into my face, and that shelf is what I use to stabilize this lens. I can lock my elbow as tight in here as possible. I can push it against my rib cage. I can create a shelf, and then I can shoot. This hand is to be able to push the shutter, or to push the shutter release. And this hand right here, this one, is to create stability. And I can create stability by simply going in here and creating the shelf necessary to be able to focus. I can move and focus with my focal ring right in here if I need to. I can come in, I can go out. Now I shoot with prime lenses primarily. The longer the lens, the more we have the ability to shake the camera up and down. This is coming in, creating the shelf, and then allows me to be able to focus in on the image itself. That allows me to do what I need to do. Okay, that creates the stability that I'm looking for. You have to lock this arm in, push it in, and create that shelf. When I photograph events, this arm is worn out, okay, because I'm sitting there pushing and then shooting. And then I breathe, and I've got to be careful to breathe. I exhale, and then I simply come in and I shoot. I don't go, I calm myself down, I bring it in, and I shoot. And a couple of you say, well, then you're going to miss the shot. You're taking all this time. It is a matter of seconds, okay? Now, if I'm with a long lens or a longer lens, there's another technique of simply putting it right here on the shelf or right here on the shoulder and shoot. But there's a definite problem. The problem with that is that you cannot focus. So the focusing has to be done before you create the shelf that's going to be necessary for being able to make this a steady shot. I'm putting the camera right here on the shoulder and bringing it around. Now, another thing is to be able to pan. If you're going to pan, then you don't shift your waistline like this. You simply go in, create a new step, you shoot, a new step, you shoot, a new step, and you shoot. And I got to tell you, it's a whole lot better if you have a tripod or monopod. You need to put whatever release that fits for your monopod or tripod here. When I shoot an event, I shoot with two cameras, mainly because if one camera goes, I have the other camera as a backup. Then, if I'm shooting sports, I can shoot with a short lens or a prime lens, like a 50 millimeter, and then I've got a 200 back there. And let me tell you something, I've got a 200 that costs $1,500. So I've got a fast lens, one that can shoot with a very low f-stop. But here, I want to make it easy. The first thing you've got to learn how to do is to steady your lens, whether it's this, a shelf, or whatever's necessary for being able to get a proper shot. Moving or camera shake, you're done. That means anything that you shoot, you're done. Now, I haven't talked about the ISO that you want to go with. I haven't talked about the f-stop that you need or how shallow that depth of field will be. I haven't talked about the fact that you need maybe a fast shutter speed. That if you're shooting sports, you shoot continuous and you shoot before the action actually happens so that you can capture the part that you need to catch. One click, I see it all the time. Okay, now we're going to get into some other things, and by all means, I want questions. As this grows and more people attend and listen, I want experts to call in and disagree with me. Say, no, I don't believe that is the way to do it, and let me tell you why. And I'll be the first one to say, you know, I like your idea better. I'm ditching mine. I'm going with yours. That's how I've grown as a photographer, as an artist, that I don't consider myself the smartest person in the room, that I know everything and nobody can teach me a thing. And that's why I crave this kind of training, and I love to watch experts. You got to go through a bunch of bad stuff. Real quick, let's review, and let's make this work. Okay, the first thing is you create a shelf, something that's solid. You push that elbow into the rib cage and you bring it in there. None of this hands out. None of this, which I see all the time. Oh my gosh, how do they do it? I mean, they're focusing and they're focusing like this. And this hand trying to be the steady hand. So you got a steady hand trying to hold this, and you're pushing the shutter down. You're hitting it. As you hit it, you move. So this hand, steady. This hand, light touches right in here and simply click when you're ready to click. Okay, but I got to tell you, don't do this loose touch and feel and this hand being just the one that kind of focuses, because this hand locks it down. And look, I'm going to say something, man. If you're a lefty and you feel like you need to do it, then make this hand your steady hand if you need to, and shoot. I've watched lefties shoot all kinds of different ways. Also, when you're shooting, portrait and landscape, you're going to shoot a bunch of that. If you're going to shoot panoramics and you want to do multiple shots, you need a monopod, because you need that steady click, 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 because you're probably going to be stitching it in Photoshop to create that panoramic. So monopods, tripods, always stay in the car. Once you have that, then you're going to want to go in there and you're going to want to make sure that you're holding the camera right. I know I sound like I'm preaching. I see it all the time. I've got to correct what I consider bad form. And that's been my way all my life, and it gets me in trouble. I don't mean for it to happen. I don't mean to insult people. But I have learned from some of the best people in the industry, and I've bowed down to a good idea. Now, that's my deal on holding a camera correctly. Get a monopod, get a tripod, and when you're hand holding it, make sure you have a stable platform and it's not going to be your trigger finger. Got it? All right. Look, this is a small little help out, or excuse me, hangout. Also, I want you to be aware that I have live possibilities for training online through HelpOut. Go to helpout.com. My listings are there. A lot of times my listings are live, which means you can talk with me immediately. And I can talk to you about your situations one-on-one. So take advantage of that as well. I've enjoyed this little deal, and hopefully you'll get a good camera, platform. Your stuff should be more in focus. It's not your shutter speed. all the time. It's not the settings in your camera. If you're brand spanking new, chances are you're in program mode, and that's fine. Or you're maybe using one of the presets. That's fine. I hope you're shooting in RAW so that you can edit your images properly. And we'll talk more about that. But one thing that I do know is that without the right way of holding your camera, you're doomed. You've got a lot of images that are not going to work for you. It's kind of like, I hate to say it, I hate the analogy because I know it offends some, but if you're shooting a gun, you've got to be steady or you miss the target. Cameras are just like that. You're shooting the subject, and if it's not a steady deal, it's not a good image. Okay. All right, everybody. My name is Michael Gatewood. Check out our YouTube. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll be posting some of these live deals, these live hangouts. And I'm definitely looking for experts to come in and change my attitude, change the way I'm doing it. By all means, it just makes you better. Everybody, thank you.